Hello friends, I'm here to tell you about St. James the Greater. His feast day is today, July 25th. It's also my dad's birthday. Now let me tell you about St. James. He was one of Jesus' best friends. Well, he was not just a friend. He was actually a cousin. His mom and Jesus' mom were sisters. That means that Mary, Jesus' mom, and James' mom were sisters. And what are your chances of being friends with your cousin? Pretty good, right? Right. Well, not only was James a cousin, but he was also a fisherman. His family and Jesus' family made their living fishing. They would go out to sea, catch fish and sell them in the marketplace. When Jesus called James and his brother John to follow him, they didn't have to leave their profession behind. They could continue fishing. But wait, I thought they became apostles. How could they still fish? Well, when they went out to fish, they taught their disciples how to fish for people. They told them to go out into the world and find other people who wanted to follow Jesus. So they kind of did both things at the same time. Then James and John had a really cool boat. It's actually mentioned in the Bible. They had a boat with 2 decks, which means it was probably pretty big and very sturdy. In fact, in one story, Jesus tells them to put out into deeper water so he could teach a bigger crowd. The boat was out in the water, but the people were standing in the shallows. So maybe there wasn't that much room in the boat. Maybe they could have done that because it was 2 stories or 2 levels. Interesting, right? Now, James and John weren't just fishermen. They were also brave. When Jesus was arrested, all the other disciples ran away, but not James and John. They stayed around and took care of Jesus' mom. Can you imagine how scary that was? They were just cousins and friends, but they loved Jesus enough to do that. And if we love Jesus and we want to take care of him, then we can show our love through acts of service, just like James and John did. James also became the first apostle to die for Jesus. Isn't that crazy? And I think that this happened because he was such a brave guy. But before I tell you about how he died, I want to tell you about the coolest thing about him. Do you remember how I said that he was a fisherman? Well, he's actually the patron saint of fishermen. Patron means that he's a saint that we ask for help when we're doing something. So if you're ever going out to fish, I bet that James would like to hear from you. So next time you go fishing, say a little prayer for James. Thank you. Okay, now I'm gonna tell you about how he died. Now, the way he died is super interesting. Some people say that he died in Spain while he was preaching about Jesus. Other people say that he died in Jerusalem after he was tortured by King Herod Agrippa. I don't know which one is true. Well, actually, I do know which one is true. A long time ago, the church decided that he was killed by King Herod. However, some people are saying that there is proof that he died in Spain. So if you're going to pray to him, should you pray to him about fishing in general, or should you pray to him specifically about fishing in Spain? Well, if you're going to pray to him about fishing in Spain, I have some good news for you. This year is a year of St. James. What does that mean? Well, every year the Catholic Church picks a different saint to focus on. So if you're going to pray to James, he's extra available to help you right now. But wait, we're not done yet. There's even more cool stuff about James. For example, do you know that during his feast day, the bells in the church get to ring freely? Why is that? Well, every feast day, there's an old tradition that says that the bells are allowed to ring freely. Normally, back in the day, they wouldn't allow the bells to ring freely. They had to be rung by someone. But during the feast day, someone would come up to the bell tower and start ringing the bells on their own. No one told them to do it. They just started ringing the bells because it was James's feast day. Also, on his feast day, there is an old tradition that people would throw water at each other. Is that true? Well, sometimes. In Galicia, Spain, people go down to the ocean and throw seawater at each other. They even put on these huge water fights. Also, they have these groups of people called romeros. These are groups of people who walk together to a sacred place. They do it on foot, and they usually go barefoot, carrying a scallop shell. The scallop shell was St. James's symbol, and they would walk barefoot as a way of showing that they were giving up their old life. And when they got to the sacred place, they would throw their scallop shells into the ocean. That's an interesting tradition, right? And there's even another tradition about food. In Spain, on his feast day, they eat a special paella. Paella is a rice dish, and they add these two special ingredients. One is a green bean called a fabada, and the other is a kind of sausage called chorizo. You know, every saint has really interesting stories and traditions connected to them. And if you want to learn more about the saints, I highly suggest you check out the channel. They have these awesome videos that teach kids about the saints. I learned so much from that channel. And you know what? I think that James will want us to share our faith with others, just like he did. He would want us to share the awesome videos that we watch on YouTube with our friends and family. And you know what's an awesome video? It's the video that you're watching right now. Yes, it is. Okay, so if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Share it with your friends and family. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And don't forget to pray to St. James, especially if you're going fishing. Okay, bye-bye.